Yay. Hi, Orod.
Hello, Soma. How are you? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm really good. You can see I have a big smile, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, that's definitely a good sign. And also maybe, like it's the onset of autumn, so winter is coming. Could that?
That's why today the weather was really nice. I
Mm,
was wondering why today it's so beautiful day in Melbourne. It's rarely happened.
wow.
So that's why we are in almost autumn.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I told you or not, but the best season in Melbourne is autumn.
Oh, I've never been in Melbourne.
Yeah, the most
So.
weather is consistent and stable. It's not too cold. It's not too hot. It's
Mm.
good. It's the best season. So if anyone want to come to Melbourne, come around this time.
Okay, I will try and next time. Um, well, that's great. So Sydney weather is also getting better. It's not very hot like what we were getting in the beginning of the week. So today is a very pleasant day. However, I have a question for you for today's episode. Are you ready?
All right. Well, sure.
So,
Ask me.
okay, cool. So I'm going to give you a scenario, and this is a realistic scenario like that I have seen in organizations. So you are going to, based on your experience, tell us
Hmm.
that what would be your approach. So
Hmm.
there is a team who
Hmm.
definitely, struggling with the 2 week sprint,
Hmm.
but they want to try something else. But so when I approached and pitched the idea of Kanban, the question that they asked me is that we have a quarterly planning, or they
Yes.
do call it PI planning. It's one of the
Yeah.
same.
Sure.
And how would Kanban fit into the quarterly planning schedule? Because we have to give them dates and everything. So that's
Okay.
what the struggle is. So what would be
So
your?
yeah, definitely, I can answer this question, but I just have another question because you mentioned they couldn't finish in 2 weeks sprint. They couldn't finish their work in 2 weeks sprint. How does it do with the quarterly planning?
And, it's not that they couldn't finish the work in 2 week sprint, but they are really struggling with Scrum as a whole.
Yeah.
And that is a totally different root cause. I guess most
Uh-huh.
of them would be, they are struggling with all the meetings they have currently.
Okay.
They are struggling with finding the right purpose, that whether, like, all these meetings are adding value to
I
their
see. I
work.
see. Okay. So
So
that's
all
different problem.
that's a
Yeah.
different.
All right. So the question is how we can help organization to do quarterly planning
Mhm.
with Kanban. Yeah. Is
Yeah.
this the right question? Okay. So before I answer this question, I'd like to back to Kanban principles,
Mm.
right? So in Kanban, we have a customer and a group of people that
Mhm.
serve the customer.
Mm.
Customer has an expectation. We call it SLA, service level agreement or service level expectation, also known as SLE as well.
Mm.
So in this scenario that you raised, we have a customer. This customer are probably the senior managers, business owners, those kind of people because they thinking about quarterly. So
Mm.
they think about a bigger piece of work. And they have an expectation. So this is a quarter, let's say 3 months, which is the SLA, SLE.
Mm.
Okay. So and we have a team or multiple teams, which is basically our service delivery team,
Mm.
right? So same principle, same thing. It's the same as one team, right?
Mm.
What we can do, because what they want to do, senior
Mm.
manager in this scenario, is to know what I'm gonna get in next quarter.
Mm.
Okay. So what I normally do is look at your historical data because they already doing this quarterly planning for a while. So they should have some sort of data already.
Mm.
Probably they already started by creating an epic or feature or whatever they want to call it, but it's something big and they want to be finished by the end of the quarter. And they started doing some sort of estimation, probably, t-shirt sizing or something like that, right? Something a little bit high level, but whatever, doesn't matter. So what to start with, and if the problem is that we estimate the work but still won't be finished, if that's the problem, because if you estimate and you finish it when you want to finish and everything is going well, then continue doing it. You don't need to change. Right? But if you estimate and it won't finish, then what I normally do is, and this is something I've done before. So we look at their historical data. How many of these these 10 teams delivered in last quarter? How many they delivered in previous one? Yeah. So you look at how many features they delivered in last 2 years, for example, right? Or 1 year, whatever, whatever data they have, and hopefully that those data are available and accurate. But we look at the number of features. I call them feature, right? Because they're not too small. Okay. That will be so they can plan for the next quarter. Because if they historically deliver 5 features, around 5 features, right, or 10 features in last quarter or the one before, then most probably you can deliver 5 or 10 in the next quarter. So that's a good starting point, and that gives you some idea where to start with.
I love your answer, and also the, like pointing out to the examples. So one of the things which, like, first of all, the answer is very similar to what I would have recommended. And also one of the things is that when you are thinking of a quarterly planning, that's more like a time boxed event, right? Like, and the requirements are getting time boxed. Like, by requirement, I mean the scope. So what you want to achieve in the 3 months is getting locked in a way, but things are not totally locked because things do change within a quarter. Things do change. So what the teams usually ask, or the confusion arises, is that when the plans is coming from the quarter, can they apply Kanban to it? Because the first idea of people is that Kanban doesn't have fixed backlog. Does it make sense?
So that's a valid question. So what I suggested is not 100% flow-based approach. It's still a little bit iterative, and you basically the 10 work that I suggested, I said, you can start with. This is what we call it convip, or constant whip. So this is a whip for the entire time box or your SLA.
Yeah.
Okay. So definitely it's a valid question. But what can happen is it's like anything else, right? So scope can change. That's fine. What we know is in each quarter we historically delivered, I'm just saying 10, okay? 10 features. So we still tell the business that we can commit to these 10 features because this is what we did before.
Yeah.
Without estimation and whatever, right? Some of them might take longer, some of them finish earlier. That's also possible. Again, you can look at your lead time distribution chart, but this lead time distribution chart show you the number of features and the features lead time, not the small task or user story or whatever, right? So it shows the bigger picture. And what happened, business owner or the senior manager in the middle of the quarter, they might come with a new feature, right? So this feature, if it has higher priority, that means we need to expedite it, like any work item type. So in this scenario, our work item types are feature, just bigger, right? and the number of people deliver this feature are more. Right? Might be 100 people work on this feature. So, of course, it gives you less predictability, but this is what you get, because when you plan for bigger goal, the predictability, of course, is less. But that's how I've done it before, and that's how we can do it. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. And I it would be also good to, like just take a step back for both of us and also kind of find out the root cause of why people are scared to apply Kanban in a quarterly manner.
Uh-huh.
So one of the things, again, from my point of view, is that whenever they have to plan for a quarter, that's kind of a big amount of time if you think about it.
Mhm.
They also are like under tremendous pressure to give the correct estimation of the capacity that's going to be required to finish, the work that they are pulling in. So when I say capacity, it's the FTEs, the, whatever language you use, it's a people, the skill set, or the resource in
Yeah,
traditional language. And that also has that impact, because when we use something which is more like, like the 2 weeks block,
yeah,
people always think of that like it's easier to apply, like you can see it in 2 weeks, like, okay, how many people are required, like we need to
yeah.
get this, and you're putting on date. But do you think this could be one of the driver of that why people don't want to use Kanban?
So people are more comfortable always to have some sort of estimation,
Mm,
even if it's not correct and inaccurate,
mm,
based on their historical experience, but they still want to have some sort of estimation. It's like you ask a plumber to come and fix your pipes. You want this plumber to give you some sort of estimation, right? Okay,
mm,
it's gonna cost you $1,000, 2,000 or something, right? And then you can make a decision, because estimation means, as
mm,
business point of view, means, do I want to invest on this or not? If
mm,
it's too much, then maybe I do half of it, not everything. Okay.
mm, mm,
Um, so no one stopped them to estimate, of course. As I said, if this is what they prefer, then yeah, that's okay. Do estimation. But if people estimated before, and 80% of time they either overestimate or underestimate,
mm,
right? And we know that in last 40, 50 years, we tried everything we could to have better, more accurate estimation,
mm,
including this, we ask the senior technical people to estimate. We involve everyone to do collaboratively, estimate collaboratively. We did everything, right? Again, this is my personal experience.
mm,
The throughput, which basically means what these people done,
mm.
it's always more accurate than what they plan.
Yes.
And again, this is, I think it back to our human coping strategy.
Mm,
When we want to plan, we
mm,
always think about good things happen, good scenarios, right? You want to buy a house? It's like,
mm,
okay, this is a beautiful house. You never thought about, did I inspect, pet inspection? Have I done pet inspection? Have I done this inspection, that inspection, right? Did I ask someone to have a look at the roof, right?
mm,
You want to get married? Always think about good things happen. Oh, I want to buy a house. I want to have family, children. People don't think about bad things, right? And this is coping strategy, because if we always want to think about bad things, then the life will be miserable. Okay. And that's understandable. That's why, because we're very optimistic about planning. So
mm,
it's better not to spend too much on estimation and planning, because we always, underestimate. We always, every single planning, people say, when if we have capacity, we do this
mm,
golden ticket or whatever they call it. Huh? And it never happened. It
mm.
hasn't happened in last 10 years, so it won't happen. how often you have more capacity and people just sit and do nothing, right? Anyway, so back to this question. So yes, people like to have high level estimation at least. If that helps them, then that's okay. But if it didn't work and you tried everything and didn't work, then we can look at how much you delivered before, and that gives you an indication how much you probably can deliver in the next quarter. And I would always do two things. One is I always pull down enough data and show the managers this is what you've done. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you never seen the throughput, you never track this kind of thing. You always track people utilization, you always track the estimation and stuff like that, but you didn't really look at these data. So I always show them, so this is what happened and this is my hypothesis. And the second thing is we already done multiple quarterly planning and things didn't go based on our plan. So let's try 1 or 2 quarters with this approach and see what happens, because it won't be worse than before. Okay. And see what happens. It might work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Um, and when I always talk with data and also focus on the problem they have. If you remember, the first thing I asked you, is this a problem? Yes. Okay. So if people not happy with something, that motivates them to try something else. But if people's happy, I never ask them to change. I'll wait until someone or something goes wrong.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. And I think these are really good points. So if we have to give some, like recommendation or more like some pointers, let's say someone is really keen to try out Kanban in a quarterly planning.
Mhm.
So what would be few things that they should always look for? The first one
Yes.
would be data, right?
First, never talk about Kanban.
That's
Okay.
true. Yes.
I
Let's talk.
think David Anderson in his book also mentioned that the first rules in Fight Club, never talk about Fight Club.
Yes.
So yeah, never say Kanban. Okay,
Okay.
because there are so many misunderstanding about Kanban, and it's better not to mention initially, right? And I think that's the purpose of this podcast.
Yeah.
So first rule, never talk about Kanban. Second, if people have a problem, then try to focus on the problem, talk with the data, and encourage people to try something different. And I think the last, but probably the most important, um, did you say, I don't know, most important comment about this, um, based on my experience, throughput, what people delivered is more reliable. Even if you speak with kind of Scrum language, your velocity is more consistent than what you plan.
Yes,
You know
definitely.
what I'm saying? And velocity, we can call it as estimated throughput or something, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So whatever you've done is more
Yeah.
consistent always.
Yes. And there's another thing that will really help when we are talking about data is that, like in the last few quarters, what was planned and what was actually delivered,
Yes.
to show that difference, because that tells a very good story about what's been happening. So I feel that that's really good advice. Orod, thank you. And we have some great takeaways from this session. So one would be understanding of constant WIP. So as you mentioned in the earlier of the episode, is that a quarterly planning is just like a constant WIP. So there's no harm in applying Kanban within a quarterly planning. So that is totally applicable. So you might call it whatever you want, doesn't matter. And the second point, like which you just mentioned, the three things that anyone who is going to experiment with this different approach, they should understand their data better, their metrics better. They should never talk about Kanban.
Yeah,
And
data never lies.
yes, and always like I believe that throughput or velocity is more reliable than like the estimated thing that you can say that you're going to do it in future. So your past data is always going to give you more insights about what can happen in the future. So if people are taking care of these 3 points and understanding like how you can apply different approach to your quarterly planning, maybe they will be less horrible. Well, that is it. So anything you would like to add, Oroth, to this?
No, I think you wrapped up everything. So the only thing probably I would say is, um, company want to do quarterly planning for whatever reason. Is it good or not? I don't know. But if this is what they want, what I try to do is to help them to have better experience, not
Yes,
completely change everything.
definitely. That's a very good one. Again, change management principle, right? Well, anyone who hasn't listened to those things, please go back to your episodes and listen because we have them released already. And again, we are end of this episode and we will come back with more topics, but do suggest some topic if someone needs to hear about something else in the world of Kanban. But thank you, everyone. And Orod always says, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have a YouTube channel. You can watch us now. I think that is great.
And people actually watching. I've seen that, you know.
Oh my gosh, really?
Sometimes people, yeah, sometimes people watch YouTube more than the podcast.
Well, I hope they are enjoying our faces on the screen, but we try to do our best. Thank you. Thanks, Orod, and thank you,
Thanks.
everyone.
Thank you.